Genre in film guides the general narrative track of a movie, with informal rules that are subject to dynamic changes from film to film. This blanket categorization can lead the viewer to expect at least a few conventions typical of that genre. For instance, the horror genre can be expected to attempt to elicit fear from the audience. This genre as a whole typically explores the morality that comes with the conflict between good and evil, technological takeovers, or the supernatural. Since their early introduction into the world of film, horror movies have been used to reflect the universal fears present in society, mirroring modern anxieties in respect to the time period. There are within that generic genre subgenres that branch into more specific conventions that most films within that subgenre follow. Michael Anderson's 1982 film Murder by Phone and Steven Sisko's 2018 film Unfriended Dark Web can both be categorized under the suspense subgenre of horror. Without the use of extensive gore or presence of supernatural beings, the films rely solely on the viewer's capacity to become entranced within the world on the screen, and therefore empathize with the character's adrenaline and anticipation. Through the individual stylistic choices of each director, a cautionary message revolving around the use of technology is derived. Murder by Phone was created and set in North America's 1980s, commenting on the use of technology through landlines and payphones. The sequel of Unfriended Dark Web, was created in North America in 2018, commenting on the more advanced technology and the ways in which computer systems are used in the present day. At a first glance, the two movies are very similar in terms of plot structure and general message. However, there are many ways in which both films uniquely execute the message's portrayal. The director's stylistic choices both vary greatly from each other in many aspects of the sound, cinematography, and lighting. The differences in audio contributions to the films are glaringly distinct. In Murder by Phone, there is a heavy reliance on non-diegetic musical soundtracks to contribute to the tone of the scenes in which they are present. The music also serves as a marker for important moments because many of these scenes that are less dominant plot points do not contain audio other than the diegetic sounds. In scenes that are meant to be mysterious, there are ominous instrumentals to highlight the ambiguous tone, therefore sparking thought and curiosity within the viewer. In the tax office scene, there is instrumental music resembling that of a dark orchestra, in order to create unease around the unknown perspective that the scene is viewed from. In addition to this emotional evocation within the viewer, the music accompanying another scene where the female protagonist, Ridley Taylor, is almost killed is heightened in its intensity. The moments between when she receives the phone call to her realization are first accompanied by a silence that symbolizes her holding her breath in anticipation. It is followed by a sharp sound, meant to elicit a surprising tone accompanied by the dramatic image of the explosion in its respective diegetic outburst.
Clayton. Clayton!
In Unfriended Dark Web, however, there is zero presence of non-diegetic sound. This movie relies solely on diegetic sources of sound that create an eerie tone throughout its entirety, as it can make the viewer feel as if they are a part of the occurrences, because in real life, there are no accompanying soundtracks to intruders breaking into a house. Just dead silence while the victim holds their breath in anticipation. This creates the same tone as the non-diegetic inclusions in Murder by Phone, however, it just feels more real to the person watching. The lighting in Murder by Phone is often dramatic to further intensify the mood of the scene. For example, in the more lighthearted scenes between the two love interests, there's a lot of bright light in the sunny outdoor settings. And with Ridley Taylor casually sitting, the entirety of the mise en scène portrays a scene that could possibly represent that even in the middle of a tragedy, life goes on and it can still be good at times. This makes the tragic scenes all the more tragic, because there is such a vast discrepancy between the airy light of the easygoing scenes and the dramatic shadows present in the more anxiety-inducing scenes, such as when Ridley was awaiting Nat Bridges' call. This almost ended in her death. This is one of the many instances in the film in which it follows the general conventions of the horror genre. The darkness present in the horror films allow many of society's deepest fears to manifest both on-screen and within themselves empathetically. And in this scene, that comes in the form of fear of the unknown, in the fear of being alone, which is only heightened in the dark room. The lighting of Unfriended Dark Web takes a much different route, as it is intended to be much more natural to the situation that the characters are in. There is no obvious artificial lighting curated within the scenes to create different tones other than the one of raw inclusiveness between the audience and the story. An interesting factor to note in terms of the lighting, there is always a reflection of blue light of a computer screen on the characters' faces, as they are only viewed through the literal lens of their screen's camera. This both adds to the unique perspective of the viewer and the symbolic nature of the screen and its contribution to the message of the film. It is almost ironic that the light reflected from the screen onto the characters' faces can represent the hypnotic nature of contemporary interaction with technology, and that it reminds the viewer of the constant exposure to such a thing, while they are viewing the very message on a similar screen. The cinematography of any film is the perspective from which the director wants the audience to view the story from. Framing is essential in any movie, as it is the window into which the audience experiences the plot. Unfriended Dark Web takes on the framing of the entire storyline from a screen on a user's computer, in which they are engulfed in the perspective of that user. In this case, the user is the victim of a group of criminals from the depths of the dark web, who set him up to steal a Mac laptop, which was then used as a pawn to play a game, resulting in the death of his friends that he was framed for in the end. The movie consists of one constant view of the protagonist's computer screen, from the time he first opened it to the final scene. This allows the viewer to follow him in every step of the way and view through a first-person perspective what it would feel like to be in this situation. Furthermore, there is a constant group video chat on the screen, which allows the message to encompass how detrimental this rapid development and use of technology could be in creating mass panic and wide-scale danger. The video call results in fairly stagnant images cinematographically, however that strongly contributes to the fear-eliciting tone. This stagnant nature makes the viewer feel stuck in an inescapable electronic bubble that could have been solved merely by not logging onto the computer. As a result, the close-ups created by the actors moving closer to their cameras allow for there to be a constant presence of emotionality on the screen amidst the web browsers and chat rooms. The simple complexity of this dynamic reflects contemporary means of communication and portrays it in such a way that is terrifying as it shows everything that can go wrong. In the final scene, it is revealed that the screen viewed throughout the film is actually a window displayed on the screen of the main antagonist. First, it displays the many windows in which the killers are revealed, then it pans out to reveal the screen within the screen that shows what the audience was viewing, that the main protagonist was viewing from his own screen. And then it pans out to further reveal the first shot of the film not shown through the eyes of a monitor, the puppet master coordinating a murder spree game for the enjoyment of the spectators on the dark web. There are so many layers that wrap up the entire plot in one single shot that it is impossible to overlook its importance as the final scene, which still leaves an air of mystery around the entire situation. The cinematography in Murder by Phone falls much more in line with traditional film techniques in that there are dynamic camera movements and framing that contribute to the plot's storytelling. It is much less static than Unfriended Dark Web and allows the audience to view the story from a third-person outside perspective rather than be a part of the spectacle. This allows for the audience to have greater knowledge about the occurrences as they are not glued to one single person, although the protagonist is still generally followed throughout the majority of the film. This means of cinematography allows for that greater understanding while not losing the mystery that coincides with the horror genre, keeping the audience anticipating what's next. For example, the shot shows an isolated first-person perspective of the antagonist entering the tax office, which we know is first-person right off the bat from the instability that implies someone is walking. Then the clerk looks straight into the camera, which is when it is known that this is an angle from the perspective of the character. It is obvious that this character is the antagonist because of the negative manner in which the clerk responds to him, and he was intentionally hidden from view so that his actions and contribution throughout the plot can be viewed without revealing his identity. This is critical in maintaining the mystery so that speculation surrounds the villain until he is revealed in the end. There are simple stylistic choices between Unfriended Dark Web and Murder by Phone that distinguish them from one another, and that also reflect their respective time periods while still both remaining true to the horror genre as a result of compliance with universal conventions like the color black in dark settings. This is evident in Murder by Phone in the scenes where characters are killed, that is mostly done at night and with dramatic dark shadows. The lair of the antagonist is revealed at the end to be in a dark basement, which is a setting that can be expected to be in many horror movies. Furthermore, in Unfriended Dark Web, the lair of the antagonist is behind a similarly dark circuit board, and the people who do the killing are often draped in signs that make up the code of a contemporary villain, like the Black Hood and the Masks. In both Murder by Phone and Unfriended Dark Web, the villains are both not revealed until the very end, which ultimately allows an air of mystery to live throughout the films, keeping the audience anticipating what's next. This facilitates the use of plot twists with little knowledge of the antagonists, like in Unfriended Dark Web when the killer who planted the laptop revealed that he was not the orchestrator of the crime. They both use technology as a means of causing panic in order to remain distant from the situation in a hands-off type manner while still inflicting damage, as they are both like puppet masters hiding behind a circuit board. Both Unfriended Dark Web and Murder by Phone explore the contemporary fear of modern technology and portray the message that although it can be helpful, it can be harmful as well.